Good evening, LA. Try that again. Good evening, LA. There we go. I've waited, as Ben said a moment ago, 5 or 6 years of being a part of Interdependence Day. I've waited for a long time to tell this conference, welcome to Los Angeles. Let's welcome them again to LA. Give them some love, LA. And welcome this conference to our town, the City of Angels.
It's progressive.
This conference, as Ben intimated a moment ago, travels every year. And I've been honored, again, for 5 or 6 years now to be a part of this conference as it travels around the world. Never thinking that we'd be able to host it right here in Los Angeles, but we've been to Mexico City and to Istanbul and to Paris and to, I can't even think of all the places we've gone around the world to have this annual conference talking about interdependence. Dr. King, I regard Martin Luther King Jr. as the greatest American this country has ever produced. There are a lot of great Americans, a lot of them. But I regard Dr. King personally as the greatest American we have ever produced in this country and given to the world, shared with the world. And Dr. King once made it very clear that I am not what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. I am not what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. Our destinies are inextricably linked together. Our destinies are tied together. If ever there were a city in the world that understands that, I think we get that in the city of Los Angeles. This is the most multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic city in the nation. Ben Barber, you may or may not know that in the Los Angeles Unified School District, there are 100 different languages spoken. That may speak to why we have some trouble getting things right in LAUSD. But it is a challenge when you have 100 different languages spoken in one centralized school district. But it speaks to what makes this city such a great city. I love the city of Los Angeles. I love working here. I love being seen around the world on PBS every night and heard on NPR radio around the world every day. I love that. So many people think that because of what I do on PBS and NPR, they just assume that I live in New York City. Or they assume that I live in Washington. And they assume that because I think there is a bias, there's a belief in this country that the intelligentsia, that the smart folk in this country, the folk who have something to say, live east of the Mississippi. That all of us west of the Mississippi don't have anything to say about what matters in the world. But LA sits on the Pacific Rim. Somebody say amen. Yeah, we sit on the Pacific Rim, and so we understand that we are as interdependent a city, as interdependent a nation, as interdependent a world now as ever before. And so I can't think, Ben Barr, of a greater place, of a more propitious time to host this conference in the city of Los Angeles. I want to thank Ben for all the work that he's done. This is what I call the heavy lifting. This is what I call the righteous work. This is what I refer to as the work that doesn't always get you media attention, doesn't always get you exposure. You don't have tens of thousands of folk who turn out for these kinds of conferences. But this is where the real work is being done to save our planet. Where the real work is being done to save our world. Where the real work is being done to establish and to build and to grow relationships. The kind of relationships, again, that we need now more than ever in a very difficult and troubled world. I've been watching and covering, for that matter, on TV and radio the last couple of weeks, both the Republican convention in Tampa and the Democratic convention in Charlotte. And if there's anything that's more clear to me now than ever before, is that there could not be two more stark visions about where this country needs to go. There could not be two more divergent directions about the future of this very nation. And I get that, and I think that choice is a good thing. I'm looking forward to a spirited debate between now and Election Day. I'm anxious to see what Mr. Romney, Mr. Obama, Mr. Ryan, and Mr. Biden have to say about the issues that matter to those of us who live and work in this country. I'm anxious to see that. But I'm troubled by a couple of things. I'm troubled, number one, by the fact that because these differences and these distinctions are so drastic, and because we seem not to be addressing the issues that really matter, I don't know where this country is going to be 5, 10 years from now if we keep putting our head in the sand and ignoring what really matters, ignoring the issues that are primary and important. I'm troubled by that. But I'm also troubled by the fact that we continue to focus in this election, and I get this, and this might be a bit impolitic to say, but we continue to focus simply on a domestic agenda. When everybody knows that we live in a global world, a global society, there's almost no decision made here at home that doesn't impact and affect us abroad. There's no decision, no law being debated here in this country that doesn't have a broader implication for how we are viewed or not viewed, as it were, around the world. And so this is a very, very important election year. And so again, I think the timing couldn't be better to host this Interdependence Day conference being here in Los Angeles. And the timing couldn't be more important given the debate that's happening in the United States right now about our future and how that future connects or disconnects us from the rest of the world. When you have a candidate making jokes about global warming, when you have a candidate who thinks that climate change is a joke, that's a problem. It's a problem for those of us who live and work in this country, and it's a problem for how we are viewed by the rest of the world when we make a mockery out of issues that challenge not just us, but challenge the entire continent. So these are serious times. We're facing serious challenges. We're wrestling with serious issues, and we need serious people to help us navigate the world that we now inhabit. I cannot think, again, of a more important subject, of a more important issue than interdependence for those of us in LA, around the country, and around the world to be wrestling with right about now. So Ben, I want to thank you again for doing what you do, for having the courage and the conviction and the commitment and the character to do this heavy lifting year in and year out. I want to thank you for being my friend and for allowing me to be a part of this every single year. For all of my friends who I see every year, I saw some of them coming in, but all the friends of mine I've met around the world who come to this conference every year, I'm delighted to have you in my hometown tonight, so welcome again to Los Angeles. And for those, I know Ben, you probably give us some information about the other events that are coming up. I want to make sure that Ben lets you know about the other activities and the other events connected to this conference that are happening here in Los Angeles so that you can participate in those conversations. I'll close on this note, what I love about this conference is that it gives us a chance every year, again, to travel to various cities around the world. I love America. I am proud to be an American. And of all the places I've been to a lot of great places, I personally can't think of another place I would rather live. But one of the things that I appreciate about our nation more and more is when Ben gives us the opportunity to travel abroad, you get a chance to look at America from outside. And there's something about stepping outside of your country and looking back at it that allows you to see the good, the bad, and the ugly about your own country. So I love being able to get out of the country as often as I can to look back at it and to see what I like about it, to see what's good about it, to see what needs to be fixed and changed about our country to make it a better nation. So I get that opportunity every year. But now we have persons from around the globe who've come to this country now and can see it from the inside. So I know and hope that we're going to be gracious hosts for those who travel from around the world to be a part of this conference. And Ben, again, I appreciate you and all those who work with you to make this conference possible every year. I love you. There ain't nothing you can do about that. Please welcome Ben and Interdependence Day to Los Angeles one more time. I love you, LA. Thanks for having us.